Selling a home is a huge deal. Selling a home when you've lived there for 20, 30, 40 years is an even bigger deal. And here are 6 things we'll talk about in this video today that I advocate for clients on a regular basis and help them navigate to make this process as seamless as possible. I help Coloradans transition seasons of life by helping them buy and sell properties through a structured, hands-on process. So details are handled proactively and transitions are stress-free. I totally believe that life is seasonal, just like the 4 seasons of the year, and that selling a property like this that has emotional and memories and all sorts of stuff attached is not just a transaction. It is changing a huge season of life and requires humanality to just come alongside of each other and advocate for each other in that, hold space, and make sure that that's a fabulous transition for someone. The first thing to be hyper aware of and super sensitive to is that you're unwinding decades of ownership. Like I said, there's memories, there's lots of moving parts, there's families, kids, multi-generations often that are a consideration in this process. And I want to be sensitive to that and I want to help you consider that as you consider what's best to your own goals, needs, your priorities, which are different for everybody in every transaction. Every space of your house and every part of the property has emotional weight and memories attached. The second thing to be aware of is the timing of emotions in a process like this. This is not just a linear process. We're all human. We all have issues. We all have hangups and triggers and emotions, and sometimes those show up later. So it can start out very rational as far as the process and very linear at the beginning. There's nothing wrong with that, but I hold space for clients when things can get very emotional and have emotional ties to things. Maybe we need to slow down during part of the process and consider something when there's even more moving parts than just you as far as the seller of a property. So it's important to hold space and allow time and bandwidth emotionally for that for folks. Part of those emotions can be doubt, regrets, fear, that type of thing. And so I'm never telling anybody what they're going to do. My job is to come alongside them, link arms with them, be an advocate for them, and just hold their hand as we go through the process and help them consider those things, not discourage those things. So we talk about things very openly and emotionally. I'm a tender heart. I'm a connector genuinely with people. And I will hold space for people when they have emotions throughout the process. I can move with very fast velocity when someone wants to, but I also have the ability to slow down when there are emotional considerations or struggles that people are having. And I want to be sensitive and tender for that. The third thing to consider is that people's properties, respectfully, often need more. They have deferred maintenance and they need more care and more tee up toward listing and getting top dollar for a property than they anticipate. And that's not to disrespect anybody. People are generally very intentional about caring for their property. But when you've lived in a place for decades, 30, 40 years, there's often, I've got deferred maintenance in my house, right? None of us are perfect in taking care of a property. And there are very specific things that provide huge value to a buyer that comes along. And we want to present well to those buyers so we get top dollar for the property. So I help you consider those things as well as we're moving toward listing your property. Most buyers that come forward with an offer on property have a professional inspector inspect the property, as they should. There's nothing wrong with that. I advocate for the same thing when I'm working with buyer clients. So when I'm helping you buy a replacement property, we'll absolutely advocate for an inspection. But one thing that we can kind of keep in our back pocket is that you can actually, for a few $100s, you can pay an inspector to do a seller inspection. Not everybody thinks of doing that on the selling side, where an inspector comes and performs the same inspection and provides it to you as the seller so you can have a heads up and go in eyes wide open to a transaction and know about issues that might come up when the buyer performs their own inspection anyway. And you can even proactively choose. There's no pressure, but you can choose to handle a few of those things so there are less things that'll be surprises later or cause anybody to wonder. So that's something we can do proactively up front. The fourth thing to be careful with, and I'm extremely proactive in hitting up, and being aware of and watching for is decision fatigue. There are lots of decisions to be made in a process like this. Like we talked about, lots of moving parts. We want to be respectful of those things and hold space when there's decisions to be made. And it can feel, after you make some decisions, and big decisions, little ones and big ones, it can feel overwhelming after a while. So I'm careful to slow down, be intentional about that when you're considering, what things to keep, what things to let go of, what to fix or repair or what not to fix or repair in preparation for selling your house, because there's some things that provide good return on investment as far as fixing or repairing things and other things that don't. We don't want to make poor decisions or try to make too many at once. So again, we just very intentionally slow that down. I have a super linear process that I take you through, and I'm with you the whole time and along the way to help you make good decisions, not necessarily fast decisions, unless you want to. The fifth thing to consider is the time frame that it's going to take in order to prepare and get your property on the market, much less transitioning if you're replacing it with something, buying another property. That process can, even just gearing up to list, can take months, especially when we're putting you intentionally in a position where you're not pressured or you're not rushed to do anything. It can take time to have maintenance performed. The deferred maintenance that we were talking about are things that you want to do yourself to prepare your property to showcase it on the market appropriately and well, again, with the goal of making you top dollar. We want to get you every dollar we possibly can in your pocket. It's a lot of things to consider. And so the timing can take longer. It's not necessarily a couple of few weeks every time to get a property on the market. It can take months to do that. So even if you're 6, 9, 12 months out from actually selling, I love it when clients contact me with plenty of time. It's, again, I can move at tremendous velocity when people need that, and I have no problem doing that. But generally, it's better and more stress-free for them if they can contact me many, many months before they plan on listing the property, so we can take things more slowly at their pace so they don't feel stressed or pushed. And then we have time to be super intentional as well throughout the process to make things as seamless as possible and stress-free as possible. We want to have time to coordinate all the moving parts and components, especially if you're transitioning into buying another property. We want to dovetail those and have the sale of your property coincide just perfectly with the acquisition of the new property, whether or not it's contingent on the sale of your old property. All of those things I come alongside you and we do together based on your timing and your needs. This also allows for delays in the process, which again is very helpful when there's no emergency and we want the right thing for you, not necessarily the fast thing. Even if, again, if you want to move fast, we can. But I prefer moving slower and find it generally to have more margin and less stress for clients when we can move along with lots of intentionality and plan and prepare ahead. And then that way, if there are delays and a contractor, a landscaper not showing up to do the work or whatever it is, we can just roll with that. And there's no pressure or emergency perception as we go along. So we have lots of bandwidth and time and space to get things done. Again, less stress. The sixth thing to consider here is that just like anything in life, I'm sure you would agree that the more structure and intentionality and proactiveness that you can have in life, the better a system and a process goes in general. I don't like chaos myself. I don't want my clients to experience that. So when we can plan ahead, be super intentional about a very linear process that we can follow as we go along, that all translates to folks not feeling stressed or pushed or pressured in any way. A clear plan means that we have insight, we have less fear, there's no trepidation about what's going to happen. We have a clear process that we follow throughout in order to get this transaction handled according to your needs, priorities, and goals. My name is Leif. I'm as relational and genuine as it gets. I would love to engage with you. This is just 6 things that are part of the many, many things to consider as I advocate for my clients. I'd love to have you reach out to me. I'd like to engage with you. When you call or text me, you get me directly. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. I love having a relationship with my clients and engaging with them directly. Look up my contact information below and reach out. I'd love to have a conversation. Talk to you soon.